back to Candy's Classic Game Shrine, everyone. Today, I'm just gonna sit back and bullshit, because right now, I'm sick, so I don't really want to do much other than just maybe bullshit with you guys for a while. And today's topic is going to be some of my childhood gaming regrets. And since I'm not feeling good, I made myself a little list, and we're gonna go off of that. My first biggest gaming regret from when I was a kid was throwing out my boxes, especially to like my NES games, my Super NES games. They were all cardboard back then, and you know, cardboard gets messed up easily, and back then you had no reason to keep it since they were all plastic cartridges. So me and my parents, we would just throw them in the garbage. And now looking back, I would kill for my old Pokemon Red box and the manual and all of those boxes and things like that. The next one isn't that big of a deal, but when I was in high school, I think it was early high school, I had a crush on a kid, and I gave him a few of my Game Boy games, Game Boy Tetris being one of them, and I regret it because Tetris was one of my favorite games, and I always preferred the Game Boy version over over the NES version. So it really sucked not having it with me after giving that to him. The next one, this is going to be a trend of lending ex-boyfriends and crushes games. My next one is lending, I was dating him at the time, but he obviously is an ex-boyfriend now, but I lent him a copy of Pokemon Gold, and after we broke up, he refused to give it back, and I, being the person that I am, went and spoke to one of his friends and had them steal it back for me, and I have it back in my collection right now. And it still works great. So, haha, fuck you, you didn't get my copy of Pokemon Gold. Speaking of Pokemon Gold, that's actually my second copy of Pokemon Gold. When I was a kid, the first copy that I had got stolen from someone that my mom insisted that I hung out with, and I never saw it again, so I went and got the second copy, and I wasn't letting that one slip away with my ex having it. This one breaks my heart to this day, thinking of all the stuff that was just sitting in a landfill somewhere because of my mom not knowing any better. But back then, when a console would stop working or would get glitchy, my mom would just throw them out, and we'd get another one. I had so many NES consoles growing up because once the pin connectors stopped working, they would just sit in a closet somewhere until my dad or my uncle or I would try and get around to fixing it or replacing it, but half the time my mom got impatient waiting for us and just threw them in the garbage. Another example would be a Game Gear that my cousin had given us. It just needed the capacitors to be replaced, and she binned it. And same with a Sega Genesis and CD that my dad was given. It wasn't working, but it was a simple fix, and my mom didn't feel like waiting around for us to fix it, so she just binned it. And I guarantee you they were all simple fixes, knowing what I know now about fixing video game consoles and like getting them to work. By no means am I an expert, but I know a lot more now than I did in the past, and I want to continue learning. The next one is in regards to the TV next to me, the Sharp NES TV. There's a lot of things I regret about this. Number one is allowing my uncle to lose the doors for both the Sharp section here that controls the channel and the volume and your colors, but also the quote-unquote game door that covers the game cartridge slot on the system. And on top of that, in the process of moving from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, I lost the remote control for the television, the Sharp NES TV, so I'm really kicking myself in the ass for that, because they're impossible to find now, and when you find one, you're like paying a month's worth of rent for one. So yeah. Let's see. Oh boy. So I've showed you my handheld collection tons of times. I'm sure you've seen it in pictures and other videos of walkthroughs of the shrine as it's changed throughout the years. I have a purple Game Boy Color. Well, I used to have a green one, the lime green one, along with it, but that was stolen. Again, my mom wanted me to hang out with these fucking kids on the block because I was a bit of, I still am an introvert. I don't like people that much. I don't like socializing. I like being to myself. And they wound up coming to my house. They wound up stealing not only a bunch of my NES games, which I got most of them back, but they also wound up pocketing the lime green Game Boy Color as well, which, oh man, I wish I could just take a bat to their knees. Back then and now I wanted to do that. And another one here is leaving a bunch of my gaming stuff at my grandmother's house on my mom's side of the family. I don't speak with my mom's side of the family anymore. Things kind of ended rough there. And when I was a kid, I used to be there all the time, and I would keep half of my gaming stuff and my toys there, and half of it at home. And at one point, I actually lived with my whole family, and I lived with my grandparents, and I had all my stuff there. And as an adult, I never thought I would want my Power Glove, or my ColecoVision, or a bunch of my NES games that I had there. But, you know, I'm really kicking myself in the ass for that now, especially since I'm not on speaking terms anymore. And I'm almost certain now that my grandmother passed away and all that shit's been dealt with the will, that's all been and thrown out. So, tear. Last but not least is probably my biggest gaming regret, and if you excuse me 1 second, I'll show you. This fucking thing right here. I believe Top Hat Gaming Man. He has a great channel. You should check him out. He just did a video on this thing. And let me just tell you, this fucking Xbox is my biggest gaming regret ever as a kid. The hell that I went through to get this thing was completely not worth it. And because of that, I'm keeping this in my console collection, and I'm never getting rid of it. So it can serve as a lesson to be learned that sometimes it's not always worth it. But to make a long story short, I think it was maybe early high school this came out for me, and my mom insisted that I go to this Catholic after-school program. It's kind of like a Sunday school, but you go during the week after school for an extended set of hours, and they taught you Jesus things. And my mom wanted me to get my confirmation, and I couldn't care the fuck less. And she said if I went through with it, she'd buy me the Xbox, because I wanted at least 2 of the consoles from that generation, and I chose the PS2, which, no regrets there, still one of my favorite consoles. But instead of the GameCube and the Dreamcast, I chose this hunk of shit. And you know what? I would have preferred the GameCube or the Dreamcast. I own them both now, but would have been much better to have them when I was younger. So basically, I had to dedicate pretty much a good entire school year to going after school to this goddamn place to sit there and listen to Bible verses and listen to why I'm such a terrible person because I'm Catholic, and to, you know, eat stale crackers and really shitty dry wine and all that crap. And it drove me nuts because I was forced to then do a retreat where we were forced to stay in this stupid basement to a church and just listen to priests read from the Bible for like 2 days. It was hell. Tell you one thing, that was one of the easiest ways to make me not religious. No problem to people that are, just not my cup of tea, and the way my mom went about it was very off-putting. But yeah, after all that was done, I finally got this, and I was excited. It was one of the first models, and all the games that came out looked really good. When I got them and played them, they looked really good, except that a lot of them were not easy to play because, let's see if it's in this drawer. This controller was all I had to play with. This is the Duke. This thing still barely fits my hands, and I'm an adult. Back then, my hands were even smaller, so trying to play games like Project Gotham, where the white and black button were crucial, it was nearly impossible, and at the time I wasn't aware of the S controller that came out later on, so that really made me dislike the system. This eventually, this eventually became an overpriced, overweight DVD player and media player, just like every Xbox that I've owned has ever become, including my husband's 360 and our current Xbox One. It's just not a system I can get behind. There were maybe 5 games for this that I enjoyed, and they all wound up coming out on other consoles later on. For me, it's about gameplay, not necessarily graphics. In the graphics department, this kicked ass, and the fact that you could load your own soundtracks into games using the Xbox was pretty cool, but that's about where it ended. And those are all of my gaming regrets. So if any of you guys have had regrets in the past that you're kicking yourself for now, tell me about them in the comments section. Make a video response. I'd love to hear about it. And yeah, till next time, guys. Hopefully I'll be feeling better, so I'll be giving you something a little bit more interesting than this filler. So take care.